Hello, my name is Shulamit, and I'm the creator of the MetaSounds process. Every Sunday at noon, I host a Zoom meeting for us to explore wisdom teachings and experience the healing power of MetaSounds. These meetings are made possible by generous donors. Please help this site thrive by liking and subscribing, and please join our newsletter at greatoctave.com to receive notices of our events. Welcome, everybody. This weekend is the holiday of Passover and the story of the exodus from slavery to freedom. The story, of course, can be read as a straight liberation story of a people that's enslaved, but it also has a metaphoric value to each of our lives, which I'd like to discuss today, because it's about each of us every single time we've tried to change anything, change the course of our lives, change bad habits, free ourselves from addictions of various types. And so it's useful to look at the story as described. Moses gets sent down to Egypt by God, and he is supposed to liberate the Jewish people from the oppression of the Egyptians. So he does that. He comes down to Egypt, and he speaks with the elders of the community and describes to them how he's going to go to speak to Pharaoh and get them released from their bondage. And they all agree and think it's a super idea. And so that's exactly what Pharaoh does. That's exactly what Moses does. He goes to Pharaoh and he says, my people are oppressed, you have to let them go. And Pharaoh's reaction is, they don't have enough work if they're complaining. They're complaining. They're just not having enough to do. They're not struggling enough. And so he imposes much greater quotas on them and makes their life a lot harder. Now the elders of the community are very angry at Moses and said, we were fine the way we were, and you came and interfered, and now look at the mess we're in. Now, is that so different from what happens when we try to change something? For example, you want to stop an addictive habit. You want to stop smoking. It's good for you. It's good for your health. You know that this is what you're supposed to do. So you try to stop, and of course, first you start putting on weight, which you don't want to do. And you get very grumpy and unpleasant to be around, and you're beginning to wonder if it's worth the effort. I mean, you're really struggling and suffering, and for what? For some idea that some doctor says that in the future you're going to get sick. So we fight against that. And in order to overcome that habit, you're going to have to push through all those negative feelings that come toward you and accept the fact that at some point you will succeed in breaking the habit, and that these other issues which seem so dominant will fade. And that's precisely what happens. And this can be in any endeavor in life. The story continues at some point, without going over all the details. They're chased by the Egyptians as they're leaving. And they cross the Red Sea, which parts, and they come to the other bank where they're safe. So they've experienced miracles. I mean, real miracles, right? In getting out of their bondage. But now where are they? they're in the beginning of nowhere. They have no idea what's going to happen to them. They have no idea why they even bothered to try to get their freedom. So they begin to complain. What did you bring us here for? What are we doing here? This is terrible. What a mistake. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all. We always had something to eat and it wasn't so terrible. And this is exactly the way we behave when we're trying to shift something in our lives. The minute we make the break of some sort and we see that we have actually transitioned to something, but our minds haven't caught up yet. They haven't caught up yet. So what we're saying is, hey, it wasn't so bad. Well, why did I have to leave there? Now where am I? I'm in nowhere. I'm nowhere. I'm looking at this desert. I'm looking at this guy who I don't know, who's telling me some story that I don't really quite believe. And we can't go back now. We can't go forward, and it's a mess. And this is exactly what we do when we're trying to shift something. Even if you are in a terrible work situation and you have to leave your work situation, but there were certain aspects of your work situation which were okay, like you got paid. You got paid. And never mind what was happening to you on the inside, because now that you're outside and you have no job and you quit suddenly and you have no future that you can quite delineate, you know what you can do, you know what you can do to look for a job or whatever, but you begin to doubt yourself. What the heck did I do that for? Why did I do it that way? I could have done it another way. And you start to beat yourself up. These are all kinds of psychological demons that attack us when we try to do something different with our lives. It could be a habit. It could be an attachment to an idea, an ideology, it's about slavery, really. That's what we're talking about. Maybe not slavery where you have to, like before the Civil War, maybe a different kind of slavery where you're free to move around, but you're completely trapped in some ideas that are not making you happy and are not serving you well. To get out of that is a huge effort, because these are the demons that confront us when we try to break free of the slavery of our passions or from our fears and so on, to do something different with our lives. And this story continues in the description of the journey, the 40-year journey between, the expulsion or the leaving of Egypt to coming to the Promised Land. Okay, so why 40 years? Why couldn't they just cross and be done with it? But the teaching is that it took that long for the new generation to come, for new ideas that aren't bound by old passions, by old fears, to start new, to start fresh. You have to get rid of a lot of concepts that you have that are not serving you. And it's a very, very, very difficult thing, but it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. If you're examining what you've done, if you're trying to be honest with yourself, if you're trying to be honest about how you were living that wasn't good for you, you will come to a resilient conclusion, the ability to adapt and to see a future that's open rather than shut down. So, some of us have been, personally, I've been in this position. Some of us have been in a position where we're doing a job, doing work that's a large part of our day, which is basically deadening. It's awful. Maybe, I've known people who've been in very good situations, and then administration changes or the company's bought, and the whole atmosphere changes, and it becomes painful to go to work every day. And you look at your pension, and are you vested, and how many more years of servitude do you have before you can get your paycheck so that you can retire, and so on. These are questions that come up for everyday people just going about their lives. So the question is really being able to look at yourself, to look at your situation with honesty. You're not always able to shift or change or whatever, but to understand that freedom means loosening these bonds. And I'm not necessarily talking about the external. In other words, leaving an unhappy situation. I'm talking about what's going on inside you. There's a spirit in there that's alive and wants to live. There's a spirit in there that doesn't want to be bounded by other people's oppressive rules. And to free that spirit, you really have to look at yourself and to have to look at your situation, and also to understand that when you try to change, there are obstacles. And I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't know, because you're mature people and you've had obstacles in your life. And some of those obstacles seem like ginormous, like you'll never be able to overcome them, or they're too scary or whatever. But you make it through. You work on it and you make it through. So again, slavery comes in many forms. People talk about freedom all the time, and they mean different things by it. I mean, there's freedom to go shopping. There's freedom to indulge your whims and your, because you have disposable income. There's freedom to go on holiday and vacation. There's all kinds of freedoms. But inner freedom means you're beholden to no ideology except what you truly believe in. And you're living with honesty and clarity in your own life, because there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be pressure from the outside. There's always going to be people telling you how to do things. And some of the advice is good. I'm not saying it's bad. But I can say that every transition that I've tried to make has been fraught. I mean, I made it, but I was really, depending on the situation, scared, unsure, dubious, doubtful, questioning what was wrong with me and why I couldn't accept the reality that was given to me as it was. But this is what it means to be alive, to reach for the light, to feel that your spirit can express itself, and not fall for all the baloney that people in powerful institutions tell us about the nature of our lives. And you can see it on every level of how we work and how we live. But the key thing is to live with joy, to live with connection, to live with hope, to live with community, to live with love. And you can seek power, I suppose, and maybe even achieve it, but power and love do not coexist in the same person at the same time. A person who is exerting power is not a person who is filled with love. It's not that they can't feel love, it's just that you can't do it at the same time that you're exerting power. Because power is about something else. So, this story of the Exodus is a story of each of us. As we struggle to gain freedom from our own demons, from habits that are bad, from difficult situations that we find ourselves in our lives, freedom for resilience, freedom to live and to respond and to be happy and to feel the abundance of life, not how much you lack and how much you need and whether you need the bigger house or the bigger car or whatever, but really, what is it that you really truly need to be happy? And to be grateful when that falls into your lap or comes to you because you work for it. So I'm going to make sounds now, and I'm dedicating it to freedom from slavery of wrong ideas and wrong habits and wrong gods. Celebrities are not God. Powerful people are not God. Money and the possession of it does not make you God. Okay. Hey. Thank you for joining me today and being part of our community. I invite you to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Time for the full live experience. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Visit greatoctave.com for more details about these webcasts, our newsletter, donations, and more.